Ladies and gentlemen, we are in for a real treat tonight on Sportswire Radio because about a week and a half or so ago, we had heard from our friend, the made man, the Sicilian powerhouse, the belt collector, Vito Fratelli, and he had a lot to say, but specifically about our guest here. He said a few things, and I even chimed in, and now our guest is going to respond and some, and he's even brought his tag team partner, the missing link, the Manimal. We'll find out why we call him that in a few minutes. But our other guest here has had quite a resume he has built up in a short amount of time. You're going to see the guys coming up here at STF Wrestling this weekend with a who's who of legends and current stars, and they'll talk about that. They'll talk about the long drive. But our guest here to the left of me is also the reigning, defending, urban legend champion of the world. He has done a lot in a short amount of time here over the past 4 years, and he is going to talk about it and some. They both need no further introduction, but because this is their first time here and Mr. Fratelli got that big introduction, you know that he's going to be watching. They're going to certainly want that same introduction. I got to play it right down the line. We're going to give them that introduction that Mr. Fratelli got. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show. They call them the Peacemakers. The missing link, the Manimal, and the reigning, defending, urban legend, heavyweight champion of the world, the Kodiak Bear Bronson. Fellas, how you doing?
Wow, that was incredible. Doing pretty good. How you doing?
Ask my voice because this is the second time I'm doing this today, and I have to do it 2 more times tomorrow. So ask me then. But I will say you've done a couple of podcasts recently. You were like, "Oh, well, that was a great intro," and I'm like, "Well, he hasn't come on Sportswire yet," and that's what I'm telling you. He's going to find out. Certainly, what Mr. Fratelli's got, and every other big star all around the world has got. So certainly, it is a tremendous honor to have both of you guys on here. But Stud Bronson, I am going to you first. Because the reason we're here right now is because of your reactions toward our conversation last week with my friend, the made man, the Sicilian powerhouse, the belt collector himself, Vito Fratelli. And he had said a lot about you. And, well, he didn't think so much about you. And the Kodiak Bear, I'm giving you, in all fairness, the opportunity to respond and some. So without further ado, Stud Bronson, your reactions to what last week Mr. Vito Fratelli had to say about you.
I think the initial reaction is there's a lot of respect there on my end. A lot of people fear what they don't know. And Vito didn't seem to be afraid. And he doesn't know Stud Bronson. And maybe that's the mistake. Maybe he's punching a card that he doesn't know yet. Maybe he's cashing a check he hasn't seen the number on. Because I'm telling you right now, every guy that steps in the ring with me goes, I think I got an idea. And brother, they got no idea. Every guy that steps up, walks out at the end, they shake my hand, they say, thank you so much. That was incredible. You're so good. Or they'll do this. Please don't ever do that again. I don't ever want to be in the ring with you again. You've mauled me like a bear. And that's where the Kodiak comes from. Because it's either the best match you're going to have, or I've mauled you and I've left you for nothing.
Now, interesting. I get all that. And I got a lot of respect for you as well. I've seen your work. I followed you. Mr. Johnson is obviously spoke very highly about you. And Mr. Johnson is somebody that's been one of my biggest champions over the past few years. I got all that. But you do realize that Vito Fratelli is a guy that has established himself around the world.
Mhm.
Mr. Fratelli has wins over individuals that are in not only the PWI 500, but are basically in the upper half of it, either inside or just outside the top 100. He has more world championships than some have fingers. I mean, you do realize this is Vito Fratelli. This is not some Joe off the street or some guy that you're working your way up and you beat him up and you can kind of feel that way. He's seen some big checks, Mr. Fratelli. He's
Yes.
wrestled in front of some big, big crowds. Are you sure you want to continue to say those things?
Oh, absolutely. Goliath went through and he walked through and he dropped all those other giants, dropped those other men, those other armies, and David still dropped him on his head, didn't he?
I would give you that. I will certainly give you that. I have read the Bible. I am a reverend. I give you
Yeah.
that. Touche, touche. Go ahead, continue.
It's just that Vito, all respect, but I think it's time that he come up against something he doesn't know. He wrestled guys like Alexander Hammerstone, another Arizona dude, and he stepped up and he did his best. He stepped in there with a lion, and now it's time to see what he doesn't know. He knew Hammerstone. He doesn't know Stud Bronson, and I'm gonna tell you right now, this is a guarantee. I'm gonna pick him up. I'm gonna put him on his head. Pile driver number one. I'm gonna run up on that top rope. I'm gonna drop an elbow through his heart. And when the time comes, I'm hit him with the Marlboro Red. And I'm gonna lock him up in barbed wire, and that's gonna be it.
Well, you look like you might smoke a pack or two of Marlboros. And I'm going to come to Mr. Manimal in a second. But, Vito Fratelli, it's interesting. And I give you a lot of credit for the bravado, for the confidence. I give you that. I certainly give you a lot of respect. I applaud you. But you mentioned Hammerstone,
Yeah.
TJP, Lindsay Dorado, Flip Gordon. These are all individuals that either Fratelli went toe to toe with or he knocked them on their head. Listen, he wrestled Hammerstone when he was a world champion,
Yep.
when Hammerstone was a world champion. And I'm sure you saw that match. It's been
I
all
did.
over YouTube. That environment was a pro Fratelli crowd, not a pro Hammerstone crowd 6
Mhm.
months ago. That was a pro Fratelli crowd. I mean, Fratelli himself said it last week. He don't think it's going to be 50-50 like him and Hammerstone. He thinks it's going to be more like 90-10.
Oh. Well, I'm gonna tell you something about old Stud Bronson here. Stud
Yes,
Bronson
do it.
isn't a fake cowboy.
I could
Stud
see that. I
Bronson's a
get
real
that.
cowboy, dealing with bulls, dealing with broncos, dealing with everything you got. And I'm gonna tell you, Vito ain't a 1,500-pound wild bull. And I've wrestled those. Vito's just a man, just like everybody else you named on that list, just like everybody else in the PWI 500. They're all just men. And like with this guy right here,
He's
I keep
big. I'll tell you
company
that much. He's
with
big.
wild animals, large, huge wild animals. It ain't nothing I haven't dealt with before. I'm a real strong guy, and once I get my arms on him, I'm gonna grab him, and that's gonna be it. Once he comes into my grasp, that's it. It's gonna be the end of his day. And I got no disrespect. I actually kind of like Vito. It's not a negative thing. I am doing this to put my name up there, and so he will know who Stud Bronson is.
I'm going to come to Manimal in a second. I'm going to come to comments because I have one of my friends here who's probably going to see you guys actually live in the ring in a second. But do you feel like that? Let's say this happens, right? Obviously, we're going to see what happens here. I'm sure that Mr. Johnson's going to be watching this very closely, as I know that he will be. But let's say that this match does happen hypothetically. Now, I don't know
Sure.
the time, the place, where that'll be. Obviously, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But let's just say if you and Mr. Fratelli square off,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like that you have a lot to prove? And let's say hypothetically, we do see this match and you beat Mr. Fratelli. Since we spoke about his resume, you feel like that this puts you on the map, the Kodiak Bear Stud Bronson?
I think I was put on the map the second I beat Evil Nate for his Urban Legend title. And
Fair.
then I was solidified when I beat Aiden Way for the ASCW Hardcore and the Compton Mania on-site 24/7 title. And I beat him 2-1. I think people caught wind of me. Mr. Johnson being one of them after that title win. Being a guy that holds 3 belts, that's nothing to shake a stick at.
Right, but
I am gonna
Fratelli's
say
held like 6 at one time, though. You do realize he's
it's
come on my
impressive.
show. Fratelli, the first time he came on, just so you have an idea, I
Yeah.
don't know if you watched the first one. He literally put on his bed 6 championship belts. 3
Yep.
is great. Listen, 3 is great. but he had like 6 the first time he came on here.
Yeah. My goal here is not to be put on the map. It's to make him eat crow. And he
Okay.
said when he was on the show with you that let Stud Bronson have his 15 minutes. As a matter of fact, I don't know if Stud will last 15 minutes. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I step into that ring with Vito Fratelli, it's going to go 15 minutes. And then it's going to go 20 minutes. And damn, it might go 25 minutes. And if the big boy got a gas tank that can go that far, we're going to go 30. And that's how it's
Well,
going
you
to be.
know what? I'll tell you what, I'm getting excited already. I want to say hello to some people before I get to the missing link, the manimal here. Skulls, who, by the way, knows Mr. Fratelli kind of, and he knows Mr. Johnson kind of, says, hello, everyone. He says, hopefully Vito doesn't get arrested this Saturday, because obviously he's referring to this whole situation with Adam Ginsburg and the West Coast Wrestling Connection, so we'll have to see about that. Daniel Banner says, hello, gents, and Rip Bray Wyatt. I will get to the Bray Wyatt thoughts in a little while, but I at least want to spend a few minutes in getting to know the guys because they only have so much time. So, the Manimal, good to be with you, the missing link. And obviously, it is a tremendous honor. You are one half of this team. And I mean, what's your impressions of this whole situation with Mr. Bronson and Mr. Fratelli? And anything else you'd like to add to the audience here, hearing it for the first time?
Stud Bronson is going to smash Fratelli.
That's all you need.
Stud Bronson is going to show Fratelli why war is our peace.
Interesting here. I guess the old adage is walk tall and carry a big stick could certainly be the adage for the missing link, the Manimal here.
Mhm.
And you guys, by the way, are going to be in action coming up here this weekend on Saturday, as I referenced in the beginning, a 13-hour or so drive from where you guys are now. And STF Wrestling Connection, obviously you're going to be there in STF Wrestling. It's a who's who of people are there. And I mean, talk about for the audience that's tuning in and what's going to take place and what can we expect from you guys?
So we're actually in the, I believe it's called the Rocky Mountain Summit Tag Team Battle Royal, and I believe for the championships. We're going to be there with the South Pacific Savages. Juicy and Journey are going to be there. Downfall Cathedral is going to be there in that same Battle Royal. And then on the reverse side of that, we're also going to be part of another Battle Royal they're having, the King of Combat. And the King of Combat is under hardcore rules. It's a pinfall submission over the top rope, and it's also, I believe, falls count anywhere.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, so
this is the second wrestler today that's in a falls count anywhere match. What a small world. He had Dante Durden had a 13-hour or so drive to get to me for his next show tomorrow. You're right before that here with us on the 13-hour drive, and you're also going to be in a falls count anywhere match. What a small world this is.
It is. The wrestling world's wild.
Very crazy there. So how do you prepare for this? You're in a Falls County War match and in a Battle Royal match. I mean, this is almost like, I know, listen, you're a bear, you're hardcore, you're a world champion, but you have to talk to me about this.
So our training regimen is, from what I've seen, at least, it's pretty different from a lot of the other guys out here. Not only do we get our ring shape in, we get in the ring, run our cardio and stuff like that, but we're also avid weightlifters, and we'll go and we'll lift weights for, most guys, they'll go in and they'll lift weights for an hour or whatever. We'll lift weights for 2 or 3 hours. We're running like 430 reps at the end of this, like total combined, and that's way more than others do. A lot of guys that I've seen right now on the scene aren't built like us, and
I give you that. Now that I agree with, Thor. I watch a lot of wrestling around the world, and you can tell, and I can say it because I probably watch legitimately about 60 to 70 matches a week because we just have so many wrestlers come on the show, and there are some guys you can tell, not to single people, have what you'd call the dad bod. Then there are other guys that are like, okay, you know what? They have a goal. They're going somewhere. You guys fall into the category like with Mr. Fratelli, where you can tell, okay, that's a pro wrestler I'm watching. Whereas some guys, you could tell they're the weekend warrior. They're doing it as a hobby. Yeah, I'm a wrestler. You guys, I don't see it that way.
Yeah, we were training the other day, and Manimal was swinging his sledgehammer, doing it for 100 reps each arm right to the ground, bang, bang. And I'm over there hitting a heavy bag, as much as I could in the course of minutes. And I'm gonna just specify really quick here. when you see a guy hit a heavy bag when he's training, it's real quick, rapid fire, just getting that motion in. Not me. Every time I hit that bag, it's a big, heavy bomb, and I'm trying to put my arm through it, because when I get in that ring, I need to let them know that I'm there. So I'm not throwing any little sissy punches. It's big, hurting bombs. That's all I know how to do.
Oh, I could certainly see that here, and I want to say hello to some more people here. My very good friend, the Nemesis James Taylor, who is now from New South Pro Wrestling, says, "What's up, gentlemen?" He is from the state of Alabama. Want to say hello to this person? Hell yeah. Also, another comment here, Bronson, exclamation point. So you got some fans here tonight. I give you that much. So obviously at STF Wrestling, you're going to see a who's who of people here, but also I want to spend at least a couple of minutes on some legends that are going to be there, where I'm sure you're going to want to pick their brains. The likes of the franchise Shane Douglas, who's not too far from my neck of the woods, and he's in Pennsylvania. I'm in New York. Jacob Fatu, who I definitely know very well. Obviously, MLW, his wars with Hammerstone. We spoke about him with Fratelli. I mean, Kevin Sullivan, you want to talk about minds in the business. So with names like that are going to be here at this expo/show, what do you guys plan to learn from them? Do you get a chance to maybe pick their brains for a few minutes? Talk to me about that.
I would love to talk to them. I think getting to know what they've been through on their end of things, and a lot of them are coming from more towards the back east area of wrestling, while I'm out here in the west. We're out here in the west. I'd love, and especially somebody like Kevin Sullivan.
Oh my God, Kevin Sullivan, one of the most underrated minds, I think, in professional wrestling history.
Absolutely. Kevin, I think I would love to sit down with the rest. I would like to pick them apart physically. That's a warning. If they step into the STF ring with us, it's done. I'm here to destroy. So is he. I know that the South Pacific Savages are going to be in the tag team battle royal with us. They better pray to God that I'm already thrown out, or they're in way before me, because they're not going to stand a chance, man. Same with Jacob Fatu. If for some reason we cross paths, this animal right here, he's going to eat him alive.
How big is the manimal? For the audience here, how big is the manimal? Because I think people will be very fascinated about this.
So he is 6 foot 3 inches tall and three quarters of an inch.
Oh,
and
wow.
He's 310 pounds. Yeah.
Well. 310, 6'3". We had a wrestler yesterday in the UK, Kemper, who was 6'5", but he wasn't 310. So you could certainly see that the manimal. Look at it. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a man. This is a machine. This is somebody that you expect could move people and eat them. I mean, this is a legitimate machine here. You could certainly see why they call him the missing link. So there's no question that this is going to be interesting. And, you guys have kind of traveled along the West Coast here in places like Arizona, Nevada, Utah, California, certainly. I mean, talk about what's that been like in this journey, because you guys in a short amount of time have traveled in a number of different places, which I find very fascinating, because I always have a lot of wrestlers that watch these shows on Sportzwire. So talk to me about those experiences.
It's easier than you think, especially if you got the right carload of people. Me and Manimal, we travel. The Peacemakers are much bigger than the two of us. I think, honestly, realistically, we run probably about 5 deep.
Yeah, I was hearing about that. You guys are almost like a clique almost.
Yeah, we sure do. We sure do. And if it's the right vehicle, it's no problem at all.
How do you guys all fit in? That's what I want to know. You guys are all big dudes. I mean, how do you guys all fit in one car? That's what I want to know.
I drive a Bronco, and that's
okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
So we'll take the Bronco, but it's this weekend right now. It's me, Manimal, and Chevetto. We're going through, and it's 13 and a half hours. And I know I got the right dudes in the car. It's going to be a breeze. It's going to be a good time. You just got to make sure you got the right music, the right food, and the right people.
But what do you guys play music-wise? It's funny because I used to hear some of these old stories. It was the BSK guys, and they were talking. It was like one day, it was the Godfather, who at the time was Kama, was driving, and he was listening to like country music. And Yokozuna was like, well, what are you doing? You're a black guy. You got to listen to rap music. And I could imagine in a car with guys from different backgrounds, different interests. I mean, do you try to like keep it neutral? What do you play music-wise for a long drive like that?
So we're actually pretty eclectic in our music taste, and it's more or less anything.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah, it's obviously, we're big guys that lift weights, so you have rock and roll, you have heavy metal, you have stuff.
Sure.
But sometimes when it's 3 in the morning and you're getting in the car, you don't want to hear that. So maybe it'll be synthwave, maybe it will be country, maybe.
It's funny you said that because I work overnights myself, and sometimes like normally I might want to hear like adrenaline, but I actually lately am like, if I'm not listening to a podcast of somebody that sent me, hey, listen to my podcast, it's almost I'm listening to like jazz music. I'm listening to like Sirius XM watercolors because it's like 4 o'clock in the morning where I am in New York. Nobody's around. I kind of want to hear something to kind of just keep me like smooth. So I could certainly see all those things. And I want people to follow Stud Bronson. He is on Instagram at the Stud Bronson.
Yep.
Also give him a friend request on Facebook. Check out the Manimal. Just check out the Manimal. All I could say, he's the missing link for a reason.
Just look at him.
And just look at him. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. If you're on Sportswire Radio, I hope you give us a sub on YouTube at Sportswire Radio. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I have an internet radio station, which is on sportnarium.com/player. We play music, talk, we simulcast these shows. You have a podcast, we can also play that as well. So check us out anytime you're bored. We're also on Instagram at the Sports Report 2021, Twitter at Thomas Price 2017. I'll be back here with more wrestling coverage coming up here this weekend with Dylan Andrews, 7 o'clock Eastern time of the Alliance Wrestling League. I'll also be here tomorrow with Anthony Arias. Anthony Arias is also a guy that's done a number of different things up and down the Southeast, and he'll talk about that, plus a whole slew of shoes ahead, including the legendary Dean Olmark. Dean Olmark, who has wins over Daniel Bryan way back in the day, a UK wrestling legend. He has been wrestling since 2000. I am very, very blessed to have had the opportunity to speak with him coming up next Monday, Labor Day weekend here in America, 6 p.m. British Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. But in the meantime, we are having a great time here with Stud Bronson and the Manimal of the Peacemakers. I have some more comments here. Skulls would like to say Bronson bleeds wrestling. These guys are trailblazers. Keep your eyes on the Manimal and Stud Bronson. Also, Skulls would like to add karaoke in the car. Well, that could very well be those cases. So, I mean, where else are we going to see you guys? I want to come back to Fratelli toward the end of the show here in a few minutes. But, I mean,
Sure.
For the interest of time, where are you guys going to be other than the 26th? I'm sure you're going to have some more dates coming up.
Sure. The 26th, we have STF Pro Wrestling. September 9th, we have Battleground Pro. And then I believe the September 29th, we are at VWE.
Yes, I know VWE very well. Yes.
Yeah. October, there are some tentative dates, and that's about as far out as I like to plan. Otherwise,
No. Listen, don't tell me about next year in November, because at this point, it's like, well, I mean,
exactly.
But in the meantime, you got some big shows here. Now, do you feel like that coming up that this weekend, you guys are in these intriguing matches? Does this kind of set you guys up for kind of a big finish in there? Because if you think about it already, the year is 2/3 over. So it's almost like this is the last few months for that last push. So do you kind of feel like here, going into an environment where you're going to have all these big names, some of your peers in the tag team division that are going to also be there, do you feel like a weekend like this can kind of set you guys up maybe for a big finish in the rest of the year?
Yeah, that's actually the absolute goal here. To steal a quote, we want to go from being undeniable, the Cody Rhodes thing. You want to be ungoddamn deniable, because that's what wrestling is. You'll turn a corner, and every corner you turn, somebody will deny.
I don't feel bad. I have slip-ups all the time on the show, so don't feel too bad.
It's been a day, let me tell you. But
I can hear you.
You turn one of those corners, somebody, if they're given the opportunity, they will deny you. And we want to get to the point, and I think this weekend is going to do it, where we will become undeniable, from that undesirable to undeniable, because it is intimidating when you have two huge human beings walk into your locker room and go, "We're the new guys, and we're here to fuck shit up." Sorry for my language. They get really protective of what's theirs, but it's not theirs anymore, and that's what we're here to do. And I wish it was easier, and I wish we could share the plate, but these guys don't want to share it, so we're
wrestling. Listen, the wrestling business, from what I've learned, now, I'm not a wrestler, but I've spoke to at least a lot of wrestlers in 5 years. I can tell you that much. And wrestling is not a sharing business. It's basically, it's almost like, think about it when you were kids and your parents would put out the dinner at the dinner table, and there's only like maybe 2 plates and there's like 50 people there. Think of it that way. It's almost like if you had 4 in a house, times it by like 13. So whatever that math comes out to. So I could certainly imagine that. But, I have to probably ask you guys here briefly, because the wrestling world has been shook the last 2 days back to back by maybe two of the biggest deaths that the wrestling business has had in a long time, back to back. And obviously the news of Terry Funk. Terry Funk, I mean, up there all time, if not on Mount Rushmore, very close. And then certainly kind of a real shocker in Bray Wyatt. I mean, Bray Wyatt was a young guy and just got recently married, if I'm not mistaken, to JoJo, who obviously did some stuff in WWE in the past. And Bray Wyatt, a former world champion, guy who wrestled The Undertaker at WrestleMania, John Cena, definitely a guy and a lot of wrestling fans really looked up to over the past several years. And I was just curious from you guys, what did Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt mean to you?
Oh man, everything. So with Terry, it was expected. He was
he was 79. He was sick for a while, for at least a few years.
He was, and the wrestling style that we know him for,
yep.
It didn't provide a longer life.
Terry put the extreme in Extreme Championship Wrestling.
I was gonna say the same thing, the Manimal. He was ECW before ECW.
Before it was even a thing.
Yep.
Terry was extreme.
That's Terry meant the world to me. I remember when I was a little stud and I was watching Monday Night Raw, and here comes Chainsaw Charlie and Jim Ross.
I do remember that. Yes, he and Cactus Jack had a tag team for a little while. Yep.
Yeah, and Jim Ross professes that he's middle-aged and crazy Terry Funk. It impacted me a lot. So much so that we as a tag team wear Terry Funk tights. We both wear the Terry tights. We're also, he is from the Double Cross ranch. We are from the Thunder Valley ranch. Terry he meant a lot to us, as he did probably every professional wrestler worth their weight in sand.
Absolutely. I mean, Terry Funk, to me, I remember as a kid just what he meant in terms of like when he was in ECW. Certainly mentioned Chainsaw Charlie. I remember even as a kid, kind of his wars, just going back and watching them with Ric Flair for the NWA World Title. I mean, that was a big. Even Hulk Hogan, he had a brief little feud with him back in the WWF. I mean, he was a guy that even crossed over in movies. He was Over the Top with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, Terry Funk literally lived like an eclectic life as a wrestler. Yeah, I mean, even years back, I think at One Night Stand, he made a comeback out of. I mean, he was. Like Terry Funk was like, to me, like an all-time OG almost. To me, like I don't know if he's on Mount Rushmore, but in a lot of ways he should be. I mean, Terry Funk, he meant so much. And he trained also a lot of wrestlers. I was watching something where I think it was Bret Hart had posted something that he first met Terry Funk and his brother Dory at 14. And he looked up to him. I mean, Bret Hart and obviously his family, and he looked up to Terry Funk. So what does that tell you about, that? And Bray Wyatt, what did he mean to you guys as well? Kind of more of a peer of ours, pretty much. I know it's kind of weird. A peer of ours, somebody's probably in, our age range, in our 30s, late 20s or mid 30s, and he passed away. That hits home a little bit more, I got to say.
I'll try and keep this as abbreviated as possible. I got done wrestling training about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Made my debut, got hurt pretty bad with an injury that actually still affects me. Got out of wrestling for a little bit because it was I didn't think I was gonna be able to do it. Took a break, and then my daughter asked me to be a wrestler again.
Oh wow!
And I said, we'll see, babe. And pretty shortly after that, Brody Lee passed away.
I remember that.
And so I decided for my kid and for Brody, because he couldn't for his kids, I would. And then kind of dove fully back into wrestling, and Bray Wyatt was always a huge part of everything wrestling for me for the last, however long decade, I suppose. And recently my daughter fell in love with Bray, and when I would take her to school, we'd listen to his theme song, and she'd like hold my hand and sing through it. And she really loved Bray. So it's for lack of a better term, it's heartbreaking.
I didn't know he was sick or anything. It was like kind of caught me, I'm sure like a lot of people in the wrestling world, by surprise. He hadn't been on TV in months. I just thought, well, maybe they're trying something else, but who knows? I mean, that, guys, that really caught me off guard. I mean, Terry Funk. I mean, he was probably near death for like 6 or 7 years, but
Yeah, or
Bray Wyatt.
30. Terry he lived on the edge of it. He was hardcore. I don't think Terry expected to live to 79.
I remember watching Terry Funk. I think it was when he made a run again in WCW. He wrestled Bret Hart. Then he wrestled, I think, Dustin Rhodes. And even then you could tell, like, how is this guy standing? So the fact that he lived like 20 plus years, we'll go for that. But just Bray Wyatt, I just don't know what to say about Bray Wyatt. I'm like flabbergasted by that one. I got to be honest. That hit me like almost like when I think about deaths in the music business, whether it was Chester Bennington of Linkin Park or Scott Weiland of the Stone Temple Pilots, Lane Staley of Alice in Chains, Dimebag Darrell. I mean, I know you appreciate that one with the Pantera, but I mean, just like that's kind of where it hits me. Like this guy was like a young guy that should have had more years.
Oh yeah, no. Bray was probably the brightest mind in the business, and at least for the last decade,
absolutely, no question.
We haven't seen something as impactful as him since probably Kane. And
I think from a character aspect, he was certainly one of the last great characters that WWE has created. They had created a lot of them for a long time, but they really haven't created that type of guy, and he was that guy. I mean,
guy.
Horrible. You want to add anything to Manimal? Anything you want to say on Bray Wyatt?
A beautiful, dark, creative mind that was beyond this reach of space and time. That's all I can say right there. That's what comes to my mind.
It's just, I mean, heartbreaking. I want to give my thoughts and prayers to his family, certainly. His father, of course, is the legendary Mike Rotundo. And Mike Rotundo, I'm surprised he's still not in the WWE Hall of Fame because he was a tag champion so many times and everything else. And maybe I'm missing something there. But my thoughts and prayers are certainly to his family and also his brother, Bo Dallas. His Skulls wants to point out he made his debut in AEW yesterday, and now his brother is gone. Got pain hose. I don't know what he means by there, but certainly thoughts and prayers, obviously, to the families, especially of Terry Funk and, of course, Bray Wyatt. Again, back-to-back days, two of the most larger-than-life figures in the wrestling business, past and present, pass away. It's just, it's just really tough. Obviously, we have to go forward here, but I realize you guys only have a certain amount of time, and I want to come back. I want to circle the wagons back. Since you guys are drivers, you guys are commuters, back to Mr. Fratelli, because Mr. Fratelli, obviously, he is certainly a made man. He is this Sicilian powerhouse, this belt collector. Now, Mr. Bronson, obviously, you've said a number of different things, but are you still sure that you could go toe-to-toe, mano a mano with this man? You can always change your mind if you want, because Mr. Fratelli gets a very angry man. He's a man that certainly, when he gets in the ring, I've seen the destruction. I know you have as well. So do you still want to go forward? Do you still maybe want to have a face-to-face, a mano, a duel, as you might want to say, with Mr. Fratelli?
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I need to do that. It's as positive as the sun rising each day. I have to do this, man. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I'm gonna say this right here again. No disrespect. I kind of like the guy, but if he's half the man he says he is, if he's got half the grit he thinks he does, he'll tell Mr. Johnson, he'll tell VWE, he'll tell anybody in California, Arizona, Nevada, Washington. It doesn't matter. Sign the contract. Get me instead of Bronson, because at this point, he's got to step in the ring with you. Otherwise, he's a coward.
Okay, so you've said a lot just there. You have said a mouthful. You've said if he doesn't want this match, if he doesn't go to management, he doesn't go to Mr. Johnson, he's a coward. But you also said something very, very interesting there that perked my interest, because you said sign a contract. Now, I'll throw it out there. I would love here live on Sportswire Radio if you and, let's say, Mr. Fratelli would maybe want to sign that contract, if Mr. Johnson would want to present one. So if you say that Mr. Fratelli should sign this contract, you obviously want to sign that contract. I would love for at some point very soon. In fact, I'll even go further than this, because in your chair 2 weeks from now, I'm going to have a man that Mr. Fratelli knows very well, Enoch the Enlightened. They've had an interesting up and down relationship, as you may say, but I'll ask Enoch when he's in your chair about this, but I still like to have the two of yous in this spot live so you could talk things out. And maybe afterwards, if a contract is presented in front of you two guys, sign that contract so we could see that match down the road. What do you say to that?
Oh, I'm in. But you need to tell Vito before he signs that contract.
Well, I know Vito very well. I'm sure
this
that
is a
Vito
shoot.
is watching this,
You
and
gotta
if he's
tell him.
not, you tell
Stud
him.
Bronson has got a 405-pound overhead press. That's not a bench press. That's not a squat. That's not a deadlift. I'm talking straight above my head, 405 pounds. That's a shoot on record in competition. Former cowboy. I ain't got a problem with dealing with no 500-pound, 1,500-pound animal. Doesn't bother me, man. Former kickboxer. And I'm not talking in the UFC. I'm not talking in the cage. I'm talking some Vale Tudo or Valley Tudo, if you will. I'm talking those pit fights. I'm used to this. This is my life. Stepping up against the things that are bigger than me and making them fall. It's what I need. It's what runs through my veins, man. It's what gets me going. It's what gets me up in the morning. Because I'll tell you, the last 5 matches I've had, now we're about to go into the 6th one, have been hardcore matches. I've been tacked, I've been Legoed, I've been chaired, I've been bull roped, I've been belled, I've been everything. I faced Twisted, heavyweight champion of HIW.
Yes.
In a bull rope match. I tore him down. He had to pull it out, barely won by the skin of his teeth, man. And I'll tell you this right here, foreign territory. He had home field advantage. I took him out. Bull rope match. Maybe that's what Vito wants. Maybe he doesn't want to be able to be that close, though. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe we should do a bull rope. Just tie him to me. I'll tie myself to him. Nobody can run. Nobody can hide. You got 10 feet apart, and that's it. That's the furthest you'll ever be from me. Now, if he's into that, I'm even more into it. So you tell Vito, super strong, super determined, super badass. That's all Stud Bronson is. So let's do it. Bull rope match, hardcore match, steel cage, ladder, falls count anywhere. You say it, I'm in. And you better make sure he's in too. I don't want him to say something and be all like, well, when the day comes.
I know. I like your confidence again. You got some real grapefruits. I'll give you that much. Fratelli's not a guy that backs down. Fratelli's not a guy that kind of whines to management. Fratelli's a guy that's used to pretty much going out there and doing what you do, but he's done it, you might want to say, on the biggest stage. He's wrestled 200 times the last 2 years. How many times have you wrestled the last 2 years?
Oh, maybe not 200, but I'll tell you this. If you say he's as bad as I am, then you got an irresistible force, meaning the movable object. And I know that's what Mr. Johnson wants for his shows. I know that's what you want for your show.
I tell you what. I tell you, as a businessman, which I technically am, I know Mr. Johnson's a businessman. You think about the possibilities here. Take a step back before we get to closing thoughts. You look at a made man, Vito Fratelli, a Kodiak Bear in Stud Bronson, a current world champion, a belt collector, a Sicilian powerhouse, and a cowboy. Could the stars collide? Forget about Lesnar and Lashley. Forget about Cody and Lesnar. Roman and whatever Uso you think of at the time of day, forget about all of that. Because you think about the possibilities here of a straight-up brawl, a straight-up fight. It would be Terry Funk-like when we would see a possibility, if it were to come, of Stud Bronson and Vito Fratelli in a ring somewhere. Who will hold it? When? I don't know. But I will tell you this much, because I seem to like your confidence. I am going to extend an invitation to you and to Mr. Fratelli live here on Sportswire Radio to make that match happen and to sign the contract. That's what I'm going to do right here and go on the record as.
I'm in.
Okay. But you know what? We're going to see what happens. We're going to see. It's up to Mr. Johnson, certainly Mr. Fratelli. Maybe we can work on that real soon. I'll certainly ask Mr. Enoch as well his thoughts on the 7th of September in your chair, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and a few more things here. Skulls would like to say, forget about it, Bronson, something Vito would say. He also says, though, make it interesting, a handcuff match. Well, I don't know how that would work, though, if you guys are handcuffed both. I don't know if I'd want to see that. the bull rope match kind of sounds interesting with your personality, his style. That might be a rough and tumble type of match. I don't know if it's stipulation. I don't know, whatever you want to throw it out there, but I want to see this match, and I think a lot of other people will want to see this match here. So before I get to closing thoughts here, I want to give you the opportunity in two ways. First of all, for you gentlemen, if there's anything you want to say to the people at STF Wrestling before August the 26th coming up this weekend, if you'd like to say anything to anybody you're going to wrestle, the floor I'll give you that for that. And also, any final thoughts you might have, Mr. Bronson, for Vito Fratelli, I'm going to give you a 2-for-1.
For STF Pro Wrestling, we put you guys on notice. We sent out the promo video, and I saw Gage Buchanan got really invested in me. So I'm going to let Gage know that I'm going to drop you on that stack of dimes you got on the neck. I'm going to take one of those pipe cleaner arms you got, and I'm going to snap it in two, and you'll never, ever forget the name Stud Bronson. As for everybody else in that tag team battle royal, right here, these two, we are the best tag team in the Southwest. You guys are stepping into that ring in what I consider my territory, our territory. Those belts are as good as ours. STF Pro Wrestling, you're mine. Man,
You can't run from me in that ring. You cannot hide from me in that ring. I'm coming for one thing alone: violence. I will create my symphony of violence, and I will use everyone at STF, everyone, to make beautiful music.
I'm going to certainly say I agree with you, and we'll find out, I'm sure, from FTF Wrestling side coming up this weekend. And for you, Mr. Bronson, I'm going to let you address one more time, Mr. Fratelli, if you have any final words for now for Mr. Fratelli before we get to closing thoughts.
Vito, a bunch in this interview, I've heard you called the belt collector. I'm 3, you're 6, I think. That's what the number is. Well, I'm going to do my damnedest to make it 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 by the end of this year. But guaranteed, I'll have one more title under my belt before I step into the ring with you. This isn't just man versus man. This isn't belt collector versus belt collector. This right here, what I want to do with you is monster versus monster, because that's what I am. I am a cowboy from hell. I am a Kodiak bear. I am almost indescribable. I am the same kind of man that Terry Funk was. I am the same kind of man that Cactus Jack is. I am the same brutal mind that Bray Wyatt was. And I am the same killer that Cross was. Vito Fratelli, you have stepped into the ring with many big names, and you've walked out and you've been the same man. Win, lose, or draw, you will walk out a different human being. That's not a threat. It's a promise. And I want you to do something. I don't want you to ever forget about Stud Bronson. Okay? Thanks.
Well, I'll tell you what. That added bonus of what you just talked about, that Wrestling Warzone Championship that Mr. Fratelli has held on to, and he has held on to it very firmly over the past almost about a year or so. It sounds like you want that title as well. And I'm sure Mr. Fratelli, once he heard that last line, I know is going to certainly want to respond. And I know that Mr. Johnson is going to certainly want to see that championship be defended. So we would certainly hope to see this match for that title, that contract signing live here in the next few weeks on Sportswire Radio. I, for one, am going to certainly make it my mission to see these two individuals live and up and close in front of your screen here, live for all of the world to see. And that's why we want people to follow Stud Bronson on Instagram at the Stud Bronson. Also check him out on Facebook as well. And gentlemen, I know you have a long drive ahead, so I want to give you guys the opportunity for closing thoughts. Anything else you want to plug, share, say to the world? And obviously, it's been a tremendous honor to have you on. And Mr. Bronson, I have a feeling real soon I'm going to see you, because I ain't forgetting about you. And I have a comment very shortly after we get to closing thoughts. So I'll let whichever one of you want to go first. The floor is certainly for the both of you guys. Anything you want to plug, share, or say, and fire away.
STF Pro Wrestling, August 26th is the next place you can see us. September 9th, Battleground Pro in Colorado. And then BWE, I believe, is September 9th. I know it's going to be a war. Everybody should tune in. Obviously, I'm at the Stud Bronson on Instagram. Same for TikTok and Stud Bronson on Facebook. The big man here doesn't really have social media.
Mhm.
I'll try and figure something out. As you
That's
can tell,
fine. I'm not going to ask a 6'3", 310-pound man, hey, can you make an Instagram? Hey, can you make a YouTube or a TikTok? No, I'm not going to argue and say, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. But for you, Mr. Bronson, I have one more comment before we say goodnight and sayonara for now. And this individual, I'm pretty sure, is the individual that you referred to the entire night. And he'd like to say to you specifically, let's not just talk about it anymore. Let's be about it.
Let's be about it, Vito. Let's be about it. Again, no ill will, no disrespect, but let's make sure when these guys share tapes of the indies and they're sharing matches, after this, what me and you do, they share our match first and foremost. Every single time. They're like, hey, have you seen this? Hey, we need to be like this. Let's be about it, Vito. No more talk. Let's be about it.
So no more than let's share Vito Fratelli and Alexander Hammerstone. It's Vito Fratelli and Stud Bronson for the Wrestling Warzone Heavyweight Championship is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. You know what? We're going to find out. I'm sure that now that the champion has heard what you've had to say, we're going to certainly make it our mission for both of you gentlemen to be here live to sign that contract at the same time, same bat channel, and I'm sure the rest will follow. Gentlemen, it has been a tremendous honor to have you. I know this will not be the last time, especially for you, sir, Mr. Bronson, but I wish you guys obviously safe travels out there driving on the roads up into Utah. I look forward to what the future has to bring for you guys, and I'm sure very, very soon we'll be hearing more about this possibility of, I think, just maybe one of the premier matches of the second half of 2023 for that West Wrestling Warzone Heavyweight Championship of the world.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate you.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the Peacemakers, the missing link, the Manimal, and the Kodiak Bear himself, Stud Bronson, the urban legend, heavyweight champion of the world, who was declared live here tonight on Sportswire Radio that he doesn't just want Vito Fratelli. He wants him here live in a face-to-face on Sportswire Radio where he can sign that contract so they'll have that match for that Wrestling Warzone World Heavyweight Championship. Stay tuned for more details on those possibilities. My name again is the Reverend Tom Bryce, the man behind Sportswire Radio, your voice of all wrestling. And if you're on sportnarium.com/player, you're going to go back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you're on YouTube and Twitter, I'll be back tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Anthony Harris. Saturday, 7 o'clock with Dylan Andrews. Stay tuned for more details on all of that. But thank you. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.